Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Spinner Rack. I'm here with my boys, PD and Kyle. Say what's up, guys.
What up?
Ready to rock.
We are talking about the Floyd Mayweather Logan Paul fight that just broke 1 million pay-per-view buys, at least. We're talking about it made $50 million alone on pay-per-view. We're not talking about gate. We're not talking about advertisement. We're not talking about sponsorships. $50 million for an exhibition fight. Okay, so I'm telling Cal, PD, that this may be the way of the future. We've been seeing this several times right now, where they had the whole Mayweather McGregor fight. They had the Jake Paul KSI fight for YouTube. Not one but two, where these guys are making money in terms of the pay-per-view. Now, is it what we want to see in boxing? Not necessarily.
No.
Pros, but what is happening is we're seeing that in this thing, people are basically saying, "I'm following my fan. The fans are following their stars.
The fans are following their man crushes.
They're following their stars.
Nobody.
And that's where it's headed. In this fight, according to the purse numbers, it was supposed to be $3 million for our friend Logan Paul, and Mayweather was supposed to get half of the take of the pay-per-view. So that equals to like $25 million or more. So it is like incredibly lucrative, and why not? We saw Lamar Odom just fought somebody and knocked out Aaron Carter, So there's money to be made. How does this affect the regular boxing market? Where already the elite fighters were the only ones making the money. Now you have a whole group of people coming in who are taking some of that, or are they expanding the market? So hey, I'm gonna bring it over to my boy Cal. And
oh God,
okay, my bad. I'll bring it over to my boy Petey, and let's hear the madness that he's going to chat right now. So, Selector, tell us, what's your take on this whole shebang?
I'm saying I have an issue because we argued about this many times before.
I don't recall.
And Mars is a fight enthusiast. He loves watching boxing. Doesn't this in my mind ruins the sport? It's a stunt. And using the comic book term, this is a total stunt. Saying this is the future in trying to go to the stunts where you get these nobodies. Like one of the problems with boxing is that we kind of want a Mike Tyson, a Michael Jordan, or Serena Williams, anyone you think is the one person that holds the belt for the longest time, Muhammad Ali. However far you can go and find a champion that's been a long-lasting champion, or Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Robinson. We're not going to get that with these nobodies. We're going to get this looking at the young talent and having the top people fight the top people and have them rise in the ranks. And then at some point, there might be a talent that takes over the whole thing and is champion for a decent amount of time, like Lennox Lewis, but it's like not the same, as Tyson was in the period, and not sort of marketed that way since he's sort of a British talent, that sort of thing. So in my mind, you're wasting your money. Anyone, if you want to join this, but I think the people who are interested in fighting that regularly watch fights like Mars does and pays for it and supports the sport, and or if you support MMA, stick to the real guys. Don't, because you understand my example of what would happen had she not lost so terribly, was if Ronda Rousey was still number one, they would make her fight Floyd Mayweather, and he would make her bloody and drag and mollywop her across the ring. And then they would be blaming him on why did he take this fight. When everyone wanted her to beat the hell out of him. They said her skills, her weight class, she's gonna be able to take this out. She knows more things, because they thought he'd be dumb enough to join MMA. He's not that dumb. He's outsmarted them. He's making more money than them. So he'll never go the other way to fight MMA. He's going to drag them in the boxing ring, and he's going to carry them and float them for whatever amount of rings and take his money home and make people feel like they got their money's worth, but they don't want their money's worth. They either want a knockout or they want him knocked out. So I'm saying this fake money is not real, and those people buying into it, they're not boxing fans. They're into this dummy. It's not a real fighter. Have him fight someone in his own class. See how quickly it ends. Not the people he picks out that he knows he can at least survive the fight. If he loses, he doesn't get knocked out like the way Nate Robinson did. Like the way he knocked out Nate Robinson, put him with some real fighters and watch him go down, basically go with a punch, get knocked, walk into a punch and be level. I think it's total BS. And Mars, as a fight fan, This is disrespectful to the sport.
Cal, what's your take on this, my friend?
Yeah, I'm not too far away from where Petey's at. I don't think this is helpful for the sport at all. And I mean, look, historically, yeah, once you get to the top of boxing, you get to pick and choose your fights. You know, they will even tell you that's a smart thing to do. You shouldn't be taking every up and comer who looks like they can ring your bell. You want to have the belt, you know, you want to have the belt for some considerable amount of time. And you know, just to be honest, it's the smart thing to do. And you've earned it. You got to the top. You get to pick and choose your fight. You know, fight enthusiasts might, oh, you're ducking this. Yeah, you're gonna keep ducking. You want to stay on top as long as possible. And it's just not there's also the aspect of talent. Like when you look at someone say like Joe Louis and it was a bum of the month club, there was just no talent that was really going to be able to take him out. There was nobody there. Whereas opposed to when Ali's there and there's a ton of talent. So you can only do so much ducking. You know, you can duck this dude, but this other guy over here is pretty good too. This is strictly, I mean, this is strictly for the money. This is, hey, I can make a whole bunch of money gauged on the fact that people will pay to see me get my arse whooped by this guy, or at least hopefully get my arse whooped by this guy. I'm going to take a really good payday. I'm going to make certain I pick somebody who has less than a 15% chance of beating me. And then I'm going to whittle that down even some more. Then I'm going to walk home with all of this money. I don't see how that's good for boxing. The last fight that I saw, the last fight I actually paid attention to was the Tyson fight with, man, I can't even remember his name now. That's how.
Floyd Jones Jr.
Another exhibition.
Hmm?
Floyd Jones Jr. versus Roy Jones.
With Roy Jones Jr. And I thought, I mean, again, that was one of those I looked at and said, I hope they don't do any more of this. I said it was nice to see Tyson fight. And it looked like he actually came out to, you know, represent and do a good fight. But Roy Jones Jr. was not there. And if Tyson had connected with him the right way, Roy Jones Jr. would have been looking up at the top of wherever he was, wherever they staged that thing, and wondering, you know, how he got the hell into it. You know, he really, it wasn't even an exhibition on his exhibition on his part. He just showed up. He was like, well, look, X amount of money, you know, this guy will probably show up. And then he was like, oh my God, Tyson actually came to fight. He spent the whole time hugging this dude. So that's not necessarily good for the sport at all. When we're just going to have people coming in based on name recognition, everybody gets these large paydays. And the hope is that, oh, I can walk away with all of this money without getting hurt at the end of the day, which of course we don't want to see anybody getting hurt, but this, I mean, it's called fighting. It's not called, elbow bumping at the end of the day. So I don't see how this helps. I don't see how this helps long term.
I mean, look, I see what you're saying, and yeah, this is not exactly the classic fight that you want to see, but like you said before, these fighters, these are exhibition fights, and the reality is that most of these don't count. They're not going towards the wider boxing. I mean, if any of these guys really think they can take on someone who's in the same weight class, who's a professional, I think Mayweather versus Logan Paul showed you how ridiculous that is. Mayweather versus Conor McGregor shows you how ridiculous it is. You know, that if you have someone who has skill, and Mayweather hasn't been in a serious boxing match for several years, that they're going to beat you unless you have it. You know, and whether you say Mayweather carried him or carried Conor, you know, that's a whole nother argument. But the very fact you can see the level of skill that he has versus they have. This is not something that most boxers start in their teens, you know, and move up. You know, you can't start in your 20s. It's very rare in your 20s to be a boxer and become a superstar. There's only been very, very few of those guys. You can't start, you know, and so I agree with you guys. This is not, these exhibitions they're not real. But at the same hand, you're bringing into a sport, boxing. This has always been challenged because it has multiple authorities, multiple bodies of the licensing bodies that have the different boxing sanctioning bodies, that have the different belts and stuff like that, which have always kept it very, how can I say, tribal to one degree or another. And the fact of the matter is, even now, you've had, like, for example, Don King practically owned one belt himself because he controlled the sanctioning body, and only his fighters were ever able to win that particular belt. It wasn't you were watching that, and these were like ridiculous fighters. Some of these were not that good, but they were Don King fighters, and they held on. And don't get me wrong, Arum has done that to a degree, and so has Golden Boy, you know, where they've been able to keep the sanctioning bodies to hold on to the belts for their own fighters for some time. So I'm all with it, but I think that now these exhibitions, they're dangerous, and there's a possibility they can also expand the market. It's dangerous, I think, that if they're not strong rules to protect the fighters themselves. Because a lot of these guys, they see the money that's coming in the pay-per-view, and they're like, oh, there's money to be made. Their fans are going to come out to see them, and they're going to make a lot of money. And so they're willing to do this, put themselves in jeopardy. And that to me is the greatest fear. I mean, can someone like Tyson's age, should they even be fighting? Is someone at Roy Jones clearly didn't look as in shape as he could be. Someone like this guy right here, Logan Paul, while he was definitely prepping, he's a young guy and stuff like that. I mean, you're getting in a ring with a guy whose hands are licensed. If he hits you, he's going to jail because, he's a professional. And I think that's the scary part. But on the opposite, the flip side, you're getting a whole new generation of people coming into the boxing, seeing boxing. And they're going to realize that this stuff is boxing light. And they're going to say, hey, let me see what the real masters of the universe in terms of boxing are doing. And that's when we're going to have, if they have good fights such as a Canelo and Charlo, they get together, that would be something big. And that would then bring people more, broaden the market. And I think that's a good thing for these exhibitions. But stuff like Lamar Alexander fighting Aaron Carter, those are ridiculous. Those are spectacles. Those are not stuff that should be there. And I definitely agree with you. I think what's going to end up happening, someone's going to get hurt and someone's going to get hurt badly, and they're going to have to stop this stuff. So yes, I understand the exhibition. I'm not necessarily for it, but if it expands the market to bring more people into the game, I think that's good.
Well, I would say to your point about like Golden Boy, Don King, one of the things that hurt.
Let's not throw out Adam.
I'm just saying the one of the things that hurt boxing, and whereas HBO was like they called themselves the home of boxing, like it was like everyone looked at that. And then at some point, Showtime kind of took all of that away because they were showing more. Even ESPN at some point had better fights than HBO. Basically, HBO would basically have the names, and at some point the names wouldn't have these great fights, where you wouldn't get to see these up and comers. And then at the same time, they would like sort of talk about the fight as if they already knew who's going to win. And then when they get found out, there's no way this could happen. And the next thing you know, when the person starts losing, they start changing their tune. Like it's like even in the first Tyson Holyfield, they're talking about it. And then when like Holyfield punches Tyson and he falls to the floor, the first knockdown, they say that's a slip. And it's like, you see it get hit in the chest, you felt it. It's like, what happened? Tyson just get sliding all the way. That's not a slip. You could be all balanced, but the punch itself is what's sending you halfway next to the ring. So one of the things, the way they did it is kind of like the way the NBA kind of selling you on what LeBron is doing, that sort of thing, rather than the same with trying to hype up Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor. And then when you see them, you're like, well, these guys aren't that great. And then you see them later, some of their fights can be, well, more so Conor McGregor, where you see him do some things, even though he hasn't really, he doesn't always win, but they're not developing the younger fighters and trying to find the new guys and saying, hey, it could be a quick turnover. They want to have someone, they want to be like NBA, we can bank on a Michael Jordan, and we can always make this money, and that's going to sell the whole league. Don't get someone to carry the whole league. Just go back to having fighters and up-and-coming fighters, because it's a turnover, and if you respect the turnover, you're always going to have someone new. But the boxing is never like the turnover. So when Muhammad Ali, when they thought he was coming out, he had more in the tank and he came back. When he goes out, Larry Holmes, they always hated the fact that Larry Holmes was there, but they were getting someone that had a lot of other talents that he brought to the table. And they're like, oh no, we got Sugar Ray Leonard. We're gonna stick to this, and this is our guy, and that sort of thing. We like Hagler, but we're kind of iffy. And it's like, no, develop the talent, the young talent, and showcase them. And if it's a high turnover, you can't just say, you can put the ad on there and put on the marquee this name and it sells numbers, then that's what it is. It's what if you want to have it, and some of these people might come back, but it's like this banking on this, let the business sell itself. Because once you lose a superstar, the whole business tanks, and you say, how did this happen? We got to fix it. No, the problem was banking, trying to stay on the marquee and not worry about the talent. And that's what this is, more marquee than anything else.
But that's bro. I don't know what you're thinking, but I've been to many boxing matches from small locales and in stadiums and stuff, and you can see the bigger the name, the more people are going to come out. The bigger the belt. I mean, yeah, they bring their family and friends to the smaller marquees, but it makes a difference. The marquee, the belt makes a difference. The matchup makes a difference. And the way the promoters, they have their own stable of fighters, and they really don't want these belts to go out of there a lot of the times. So they're going to do everything they can to make sure they do. Yeah, they match up people within their stable of fighters, and within that stable, they'll keep the belt within there that they have control of.
But that's a turnover. That you're worried about turnover, saying you want this guy isn't gonna, unless, as Cal was saying, you put these guys in your planned fights, so you know that they're not gonna kill him, and then you're just getting it's literally, what was it Thunder is Rocky versus Thunder, whatever that guy was. Underlips is basically that, it's like, what's the next thing? And rather than saying, like the NBA should have thought about it, when Jordan was gone, they were okay with Jordan, who was still in a decent playing shape, to leave, because they had Iverson, they had Duncan, they had all these young guys that were coming up to be the next people to take over the league. And then they had some of the older people still there, still around. So it wasn't like saying like, okay, we don't have Floyd Mayweather, we don't have nobody. We got Canelo. We try to figure out some new talent, up and comers, and promote it that way so people can get back into it. But they're trying to get to that astronomical number.
There's two different things here, because the NBA is one league, and boxing is really 4 or 5, probably even more sanctioning bodies.
More
right?
talent to find.
And then you have right. So you don't have the same quality of fighters fighting each other all the time.
I agree. It's just
so whereas the UFC is excellent at getting you the match that you want to see. So you're going to see the top matches within that weight class, because that's what they want to do. But the fighters complain about not getting paid enough. Like, for example, McGregor was one of their top pay-per-view guys, and yet when he would get paid, he would get paid vastly less than a boxer would get, who was doing a pay-per-view for the same amount of sales. So, and they constantly complain about that. Versus
because the guys were stealing, taking all the money. The same like old school boxing. But take all the money, saying we're just a small league. There's no money in it. It was all pay-per-view. It's like, no, it's only a small league.
Yeah, but they have this, so they're good at making that whole thing work there. But boxing isn't necessarily working that way. There's no one organization. There's several organizations. And so the goal is not to promote the whole sport in and of itself, but my stable of fighters or my organization in and of itself. And I think that's one of the biggest hurts, the biggest problems you have. I mean, now you have like Canelo, one of the biggest names right now in boxing. And he's basically outside those promoter circles now. Now he's on his own, doing his own thing. Yeah. Just like what Mayweather had to do, get out himself outside of Aram. He's gotten out of Golden Boy. So I think it's a different model. All I'm just saying in terms of the exhibition, I think it's dangerous. I think it needs to really be regulated, and in terms of what's happening there. But at the same time, if we can get more people, younger people, because when I go to the boxing match, you have younger people who like the fights, but you also get a bunch of older people who are watching it. And the more you can expand that market so other people can see it, if this brings them into saying, oh, this is what boxing light is. Let me see what real boxing is with true competitors coming out to there. I mean, boxing is like a pyramid, right? All the money is really at the top. So, but you have hundreds, if not thousands, of people boxing throughout all the different strata. And you really don't make a lot of money until you get to almost not the top level, right? And so you have these guys who struggle for years. I mean, I've seen boxers who literally have worked as a city job, and they're told, hey, here's your turn. And they literally come out of that, they kept themselves in shape and come into the boxing match and fight, because this is their opportunity. And more often than not, they don't go much. But every once in a while, you get somebody who's able to move forward, because it's just not enough for you to survive and live on this stuff, And like I said, if the exhibitions can help expand that market, I think that's a great thing. But it's going to become, as we've seen, more and more of these fights are happening because the money's going to go. There's money for them. I want to use an example, and I don't want to use it in the wrong way, but OnlyFans, where people can only follow the fans can follow who they want to see and pay for that.
But then they'll be paying for this Logan Paul to see him win, because the OnlyFans are not getting the content. Would be more in the lines of seeing this guy survive the fight. So it'd be sort of giving what Cal was saying for the champion, that sort of respect. When you're saying you're the up and coming nobody, you got to go and fight some real people, not say the fight.
It's an exhibition. You don't have to fight anybody. Look, the Knicks fans there are millions of Knicks fans, and the Knicks have only made it into the playoff now after 13 years. You know what I'm trying to say?
I would say that's different. The different thing is like the Knicks work is profitable because now they don't have to worry about the years of trying to spend for talent, because everyone wants to come and score 50 on the Garden, and they want to see LeBron, and they want to see this. They've changed the whole market. So right now, same with the Bulls, their stadium, they just have people coming there, putting their mark. These other outsiders coming.
But that's coming to the stadium. I'm saying people supporting the team, people supporting the fans. Like what it reminds me of is like
fans supporting the team. Yeah, we complain about the team. The thing is, the market.
What your fan is? What's your fan? I'm a Knicks fan, and you're like, are you out of your mind? These guys, you haven't won in like God knows how long. You haven't been contenders in how long? That's what I'm talking about. It's like in European soccer, where you have the soccer teams. I'm Manchester United, generation to generation. They're going to follow that team. They're going to be supporters of that team. And it's not only European, throughout the world. But I'm saying that's what's going to happen.
But you have someone that isn't going to win. This is like they're setting it up. The Knicks aren't winning. They were, I think, the higher seed, and they got ousted in the playoffs, right?
First round.
That was so bad. So then you have Logan Paul, who lost the fight, but it would be worse. It would be like, what was it? The Knicks was it? I forget what it was. I guess it wasn't too bad. It wasn't. I don't think it was a gentleman's suit. I'm not sure. But yeah, this is what it is. You can't just say and have this guy be floated. He has to be in there with somebody that knocks him out, and then we say, "Oh, we backed the wrong horse," and then they move on. You can't build a thing on. You can't build a. You can build a franchise on fighters on a real fighter. You can't build it when they're watching. They don't understand why people are clinching. Why are they holding on to each other? Well, stop holding on to them. You lost. Like that's a part of boxing. You got to teach people to start to learn what the game is, or else they're not understanding why these things are going on. Why does he get to hold on to him? Say, well, until the ref breaks it up. The one thing they say, like I think it was Ali and Frazier, when Ali won the second fight, he's holding the back of his head, and in the third fight, Frazier. Joe Frazier said that was happening, and the person was like, "No, you can't do it." And that's one of the things that you take away some of those sheets. But the clinching wise, you can't. That's a big part, especially heavyweights, because they're throwing bombs. So I think I hear what you're saying, but I don't know that. I think those fans are ones that are not. They're coming for him, and they're going to leave with him. And when they see him stretched out on the floor, they're going to be unsubscribed.
They're going to follow and see what's his next thing, because they're his
right. He's going to be watching.
This is not like the standard boxing. If you were a fighter and you lose, that's one thing. Look at Canelo. Canelo lost to Mayweather, and people still are following him. He's probably a bigger fan. Manny Pacquiao lost. If you're a fan of a fighter and they're giving it a good try, they're going to follow you.
But they're still fighting at a decent level. It's not like it's not like was it Cesar Chavez when he was past his prime? It was over. That was the thing. It was a part where when they finally had the fight we wanted to see, Pernell and him, he got embarrassed. And then after that you had the Golden Boy himself make them all bloody. At some point it's got to stop. You can have
he wants to come back.
Yeah, but that's the same. You can have your fans. That doesn't make it a good fight.
Right.
I mean,
but again, I say there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance between health and security, and and having expanding the fan base by having new some of these exhibitions go through. I think, and look, I'm just saying we've known that he's had some health problems and some issues. I don't think that's safe. Golden Boy, he's had some issues. I think you have to be very careful of anybody even allowing an exhibition to go through. I'm telling you, this is very dangerous. If you're going to let an exhibition go through with people who are not taking care of themselves, it's going to be a problem. That's what I'm saying. And in the end run, when that happens, everything is going to be shut down.
Okay, so we got Golden Boy versus Logan Paul. How's that going to go?
I'm going for Logan Paul, plain and simple.
Sure?
I don't think he has a chance in hell. I don't think Golden Boy is at the place that he is, unless he gets into some type of serious training and gets himself.
You don't think he could mollywop this guy?
No. I think age plays against him. Training, he hasn't really trained in a while. You know, it's easy to go back after 3 months and say, hey, I'm going back to the ring to training for 3 or 4 months again. But you know, you can't just stop and not really do it because this is a different level of competition. You know, this is a young guy, big, bruising. Now, let's say he go after Charlo, or if he goes after Canelo, they're gonna whoop him so bad. They're gonna like totally destroy him. You know, destroy him. And that's not something he wants to happen. Yeah, you want to make a couple of $1 million without too many scratches on your face. That's what you want. You know? Yeah, long story short, I think this is going to continue for a while. There's too much money in it. The opportunities for age stars to go into it. The opportunity for others to, hey, Mayweather said he'll fight. He's interested in fighting Conor again. I mean, that's one of the biggest pay-per-view matches ever. You know,
and people dumb enough to pay for it. Not well, I didn't pay for it the last time, so I haven't seen this one yet. So,
yeah. So listen, Cal, do you want anything to contribute before we wrap this up?
I think you guys did a pretty good job. I was having fun listening.
Okay. Well, hey, once again, I'll give a brief synopsis, and we are all in agreement that while we are the exhibition, while the exhibition, can I finish on?
Not a chance.
While the exhibition,
no way, we're all in agreement on this one. No way, not a chance. Sorry, sir. That's
so like,
not happening.
So like
Don't even start it. That's not on this road show that we all agreed on that. No way.
I'm trying to find common ground for us. So we all agree at the very least that these exhibitions are going to continue.
Here we go.
Okay. We understand that there are benefits and negatives that may happen with these things.
There's no benefits.
That it may take away from the actual sport of boxing, but it may also at the same hand increase the market that they may be there. So long as there's some concrete rules to help protect these exhibition fighters. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Spinnerack?
Out, and we don't agree on anything about that. This is some BS. Out.